Hello, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the alphas. So, every single animal, or every single type of animal, has an alpha. But, there is the main alphas that we know: Peck, Greely, Sir Gilbert, Lisa, Graham, and definitely did not forget his name, Cosmo. So I'm going to be talking about each of their characters, things about them, etc. But let's go over the ones that everybody may not know because they aren't as relevantly present. Another one that has recently become present is Tavy, the dolphin alpha. Now there is many. There is the additional alphas that we have names of is... Okay, so this is where I'm getting my stuff from. I'm getting it from Animal Jam Spirit Blogspot, and it says here, sadly, the portion of the Animal Jam website holding its legends was removed during 2011. No additional stories were added to Jamal. This is one of the reasons we created the Jamajian movement, to help return culture to the game. It means more than rares. What does Jamal mean to you? Since we began the movement, we have brought back the shamans as alphas, as well as the stories of Mira as both introduction for the new Jammers and Zeos and the stories of adventures. Even the idea of quests have returned as the now popular adventures. Thank you, AJHQ, and thank you everyone for your support in shaping Jamal. Now, Jamal itself, Animal Jam, it's very interesting and it has a lot of different stuff. In my next video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about, well, not a little bit, the whole structure of that video is basically going to be about the new stuff that I found out, which ties in relation to the newer game, Play Wild. Obviously, it's not as new. It's not like it came out last year, but it has been out for a while. But that's what I'm going to be talking about. I found some information there. That does change some things that I said in my video about Animal Jam's lore. In my next video, I'm just going to talk about Mira, Zeos, a little bit about Juno, the alpha of the Arctic wolf. I'm going to be talking about my theories, different stuff like that, things about Mira and Zeos, things that I feel like sometimes don't really make any sense, and a little bit more of a discussion on that topic. But let's get into this. Now, talking about the additional alphas, we have the seal alpha, which is named Harper. We have the elephant, which is Otto. The rhino, which is Ruby. Crocodile, which is Cornelius. The horse, Sophia. Penguin, Marco. Giraffe, Edmund. Fox, Amelia. Raccoon, LaSalle, or LaSalle, LaSalle, I don't know. Deer, Sigurd. I have no idea how to say that. Cheetah, Olive. Kangaroo, Broomer. Hyena, Biff. The Arctic wolf, Juno, which we have talked about, and which recently revealed in the Belush once it was, added to the game. We have the snow leopard, Jade. Otter, Hudson. Lion, Atlas. Eagle, Valentina. Shark, Drake. Sea turtle, Calypso. And octopus, Victor. Now, I had no idea, actually, speaking about that first little excerpt that I read, I didn't know that there was a part of the Animal Jam website that held its legends, but that's actually really cool, and I'm so glad that this website that I found really does kind of bring a little bit into the legends, etc. So, let's talk about Peck first. Right here, it tells us a little bit about Peck. It says, Peck, the bunny alpha, which is an outgoing artist that excels in every medium. Her inability to sit still is constantly causing its fair share of trouble, but she is always using her energy to create and spread beauty and cheer throughout the world of Jamal. Now, Peck is my second favorite. Not really important information, but just thought I'd throw that out there. Peck and Greely, I do know for sure, are probably the closest together. Like, they're the closest and get along better, because Peck is really one of the alphas that truly does understand him better. and does like get his way of thinking, because she's the one that's kind of like more understanding with him and more friendly with him, while the others immediately attack Greely. Now, I'm not saying Greely is never in the wrong, because there is some times where I'm kind of just like, now why would you do that? Like, please tell people where you're going and what you're doing, because you cannot keep complaining that people are ruining your plans if you don't tell anybody that you have a plan. Nobody, how are we going to know not to ruin your plan if you do not tell us what it is? If we do not, because a lot of the alphas, there's a big thing with the alphas right here, the main ones right here, that they all like don't trust Greely very well. Peck is probably the one that trusts him the most, and that's pretty evident, especially in the very last adventure that we have, which I played, and the other one in my other video, which I did go over a little bit about Peck and the relationship. It does show a little bit of, what's it called? It shows a little bit of improvement with how they view Greely. It's a little bit of an improvement, especially because Sir Gilbert and Greely do not get along. They hate each other. Maybe not hate each other, but they despise each other and literally try to never ever interact with each other unless it's absolutely necessary. Because if you go back, you can tell that in the last adventure, you could just tell the like tension that they have, because they just don't like each other. They're kind of just like you saw how Sir Gilbert immediately becomes really apprehensive and really rude towards Greely. Now, I love Sir Gilbert, but they absolutely do not like each other and will probably find every single fault that they can to get onto each other, because they're kind of just like, ha, I was right, or ha, I knew it. Sir Gilbert, I think, is probably the most suspicious of Greely and really just doesn't trust him the most, because he immediately always goes for the worst. Now, before I continue going off track, let's read a little bit about Peck. Peck is the rabbit shaman. She is the loud and feisty one of the group, and she is a nonconformist and very independent. She lets her punk rock creative spirits guide her. She likes her music loud and her clothing even louder. Peck is friendly to everybody and sees herself as just one of the gang. She doesn't flaunt her shaman status, and as a matter of fact, can be a little embarrassed at being treated with reverence. Peck loves to create and is a gifted interior designer, painter, and musician. And she does her best to leave her distinctive mark. Now that's kind of what was said over here, but here's a little bit more about her. She is an artist that revels in any medium, and she has done so much to beautify Jamal and inspire other animals to join her in a huge outlandish art projects. Her alpha abilities seem to have magnified her already passionate and energetic personality 100-fold. However, and some animals find her perpetually excitement and restlessness quite exhausting. But, which a lot of people may not have known, Peck actually has a very hot temper. When phantoms appear or her friends are threatened, her artistic exuberance flips instantly to full throttle attack mode. She believes in striking first and planning later. Much later. Hopefully while she's off doing something more fun. And then it kind of just asks you a couple questions. But Peck, she moves in a blur. She gets bored easily and never seems to run out of ideas. She takes her role as a mentor to other rabbits very seriously and is determined to get Jamal's rabbits into shape and ready for whatever the phantoms might throw at them. She is really great, and I love her character. So, Peck, she does a lot, really. She really, really does, and she gets along with Greely perfectly. I'm actually going to leave Greely for last because there are a lot of different things that you need to go over for Greely, because he's the one that has a lot of theories being made about him because of the things that he does in the adventures and things that we learn about him. So let's go ahead and go for Cosmo. Cosmo the koala alpha has always felt more at home among his plant friends than with other animals, which is true, because actually, I know I said that I didn't even know, I said this in the other video that I didn't know that Cosmo talked to animals, but it literally says that it literally says it in one of the adventures that he can talk to plants, but he cannot talk to fungi because they are not plants. He cannot talk to them because they are not plants. Because I remember he was having a conversation with Graham, and Graham's like, can't you just talk to them? Like, what do you mean you can't talk to them? They're literally plants. He's like, actually, no, they're not. They're fungus. So I cannot talk to them. But anyways, this is particularly because of his unique ability. It literally says it right there. I feel kind of stupid because it literally says it like everywhere that you read about him that he speaks to plants, and somehow I just didn't know that. Maybe I just forgot, but yeah. And his unique ability to speak with plants. And partially because his timid nature keeps him far from most confrontations. So here it is. Cosmo the koala shaman is an expert herbalist. He makes up for his small stature by being very animated and cheerful about everything. Yeah, he's really sweet. He really is. And feels that even a small person can have a big personality. He's a true academic and loves to study books and do field research, which is quite evident in one of the first few adventures that we play. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of herbs and their uses, and he's often consulted by other shamans about threats to the natural world. He acknowledges the spiritual world, but prefers to concentrate on things that he can see and touch and eat, of course. He's a natural-born teacher and loves taking a group of students out into the field to study plants, which is the few that we had to save. Cosmo would be the first to admit that most koalas aren't very ambitious, and before he came to Jamal, he seemed to be a fairly typical koala. He spent most of his time in the trees, eating leaves, but even then, despite his outward appearance, there was something different about Cosmo. You see, Cosmo understands plants. Now, you might be thinking that's no big deal. Lots of people understand plants. My mom understands plants. But Cosmo doesn't just understand how to make plants grow. He understands what they're saying. To each other, to animals, and sometimes even to themselves. Which that kind of goes into a little bit more about how he understands plants, and that's his unique ability. A lot of plants talk to themselves because they assume nobody is listening. As soon as most plants in Jamal realize Cosmo can communicate with them, they become willing to do some pretty amazing things to help him. They tell him how to mix various natural substances, which goes back to show how he's such an expert herbalist because he has the plants to help him. Not saying that he isn't smart enough to do it on his own, but the plants do help him out a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, oh yeah, the plants helped me make this. You know what I mean? Various natural substances together to create potions with hundreds of uses. They can carry him quickly through the trees, hide him, and even create traps for phantoms that are undetectable until it's too late. And fun fact, Cosmo and Peck are the youngest of the alphas, and sometimes the others don't really get their jokes or appreciate their pranks. Right, I also thought that was pretty funny that these two always do pranks on the other alphas, which I bet Greeley does not enjoy at all. But there's one thing Cosmo never jokes about. He has a deep and reverent respect for the power of the natural world, perhaps because he's able to communicate with so much of it. He is just so cute and amazing. Alright, let's talk about Graham. Graham the monkey alpha is always inventing ways to improve the lives of others. But while he has often difficulty focusing on any single topic, he can usually think or invent his way out of almost any situation that he puts his mind to. And Graham also likes to look at old architecture and old technologies that they had, like especially in the ruins when we play The Mystery Below, where you can see them too right there. We go ahead and tells us a little bit about how he didn't even know that they had those types of technology back then, and that's something that he really wants to study because, he wants to learn from it and maybe create something that's just as good as that and possibly better. So Graham is the monkey shaman who can always be found building, fixing, and inventing things. He can craft tools that other animals can use without needing hands or thumbs. He's a born tinkerer and never leaves a tool alone without trying to improve it or develop it further. Graham has a bizarre sense of humor and likes to play innocent pranks on the new animals in Jamal. I find that so funny that he's like, "Oh, you're new here? Well, guess what? We have this initiation." And basically, you see this tiger over here? Y'all are gonna get why I say this in a moment. You see this tiger over here? You should go and say hi to him. Yeah, he's super friendly. Yeah. No, he's super cool. Yeah. Oh, you're new. Oh my god, and you're a new species. We've never had your kind over here. We've never had a single dinosaur here before. That is so interesting. I thought they all died out, but maybe I was wrong. Anyways, you should totally go over there and see him. He's so nice. You'll love him. You'll love him. Anyways, moving on. So here's a little bit of conflict that Graham has with everybody, because Graham, he even says it himself. He's like, "Ugh, you guys are so stupid." He doesn't mean it in a way that they're idiotic, but the way that they react, and they kind of undermine him a lot, or not undermine him, but more aren't very appreciative. He always tries to do things to help them, and they're kind of just like, "Yeah, but we could have already done this." That's not the point. He's trying to help and doing it in a way that he can do it. You know what I mean? With his skills. And says it here. The first thing Graham noticed about the other alphas was that they seemed to do everything the hard way. For example, take that time Lisa tracked the spirit stone of the giraffes to a phantom cavern sealed by an enormous boulder. By the time Graham got there, Lisa had a dozen animals straining to move the stone out of the way, and after hours of effort, they barely made it budge. Graham shook his head and clicked his tongue. All of that sweat and nothing to show for it. Why, it was the simplest thing in the world to build a water wheel on a nearby stream and set up a system of gears and pulleys and counterweights that could raise and lower the giant rock with the effortless pull of a lever. Sure, it took a few days to build, and Lisa kept asking why they couldn't just get a few more strong animals to pitch in and move the stone in a matter of minutes. And here's the part where he's kind of just like, Graham tried to explain that she was missing the point, which they all seem to do. Now they could move the boulder up and down anytime they wanted without breaking a sweat. Keep in mind, anytime they wanted. Lisa and the other animals weren't impressed with Graham's contraption, and they seemed to forget all about it as soon as the giraffes were freed to return to Jamal. Graham still visits the cavern from time to time, though the boulder moving machine is great for breaking open stubborn coconuts. And that's where I kind of sympathize with him, because, imagine doing all that work and nobody's appreciating it. Like, sometimes people want to be appreciated. They're kind of just like, oh, I did this thing for you guys. Like, he did it for them, to help them. And they're just not getting it. Or they're like, yeah, but like, we just need a few more people and then we can push it out of the way. Yeah, but this way it's a lot easier and you need less manpower so things can go a little bit smoother and y'all won't have to, like, you know, overexert yourselves and do all these different things. Lisa, come on. Do better. Do better. Do better. You know, I'm just messing around. All right. Guess who we have next? Lisa, the panda alpha, was born with an adventurous spirit and a warm heart. Really? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing around. Though even she will admit that she can be overly trusting and compassionate at times, she truly believes that good can be found inside of everyone. Even phantoms? Just a question. No, I'm not hating on her. I'm not hating on her, I promise. Brave and powerful Lisa is the panda shaman. She values exploration and intellectual pursuits, which I love about her. She is really nice, and we see her in the beginning adventures when she's truly helping out everybody. And here we get to know a little bit about the things that she did in Jamal, like when Jamal was first built and everything. This was one of her first jobs and the thing that she had the hardest time with, which is probably why she's at the beginning of adventures. So let me keep reading and I'll go ahead and point that out. She has personally mapped a great majority of Jamal, and she is proud and determined in her manner. She lets nothing stand in the way of her latest expedition to a far-off land. Lisa doesn't stand still for long and never has time to talk before dashing off. She created most of the exploration-based challenges in Animal Jam, and she presses all animals in the world to document Jamal. She has a kind and motherly manner about her, very encouraging and gentle, and she believes that anyone can do better and reach higher. Lisa is pretty well known to the animals of Jamal since she personally welcomes everybody, which, you know, like, if you create an animal in Animal Jam, she's the one who, you know, says hey, and helps them get started on their adventures, which, you know, the first adventures that we play, she's the one that really shows us how to do everything. She found a land besieged not only by phantoms, but by internal conflicts as well. This is what I was talking about, the thing that she had to get through and work around, because these are the things that she had difficulty with. Rabbits and monkeys were always bickering, while koalas and tigers wouldn't even speak to each other at all. And it seemed as though the wolves didn't get along with anybody. Even among the alphas, there was tension and suspicion. That right there, so that tells us a little bit about wolves and their nature, because it says right there, the wolves didn't get along with anybody. And that can really be told here, because while Peck is the one that really gets along with him the most, he kind of like, he's more reserved, and he's like, Like, you see it in one of the adventures, and I have a feeling that he probably didn't even want to do the hug in the first place, but since he likes Peck, like, I feel like he likes her the most because she's, like, more understanding and agrees with him the most. Like, she agrees with Greeley a lot of the time because he says things that, you know, make sense, and he's done the most research on the phantoms, so it makes sense to listen to him. I'm not saying he's right all the time, but it makes sense to mostly listen to Greeley, even though, you know, everybody can put in their own input, but it is a problem about how they are always kind of like a lone wolf type situation. And it says here, even the alphas, there was tension and suspicion. Tension, suspicion. And who do we think that might be talking about? I have no idea. I have absolutely no clue who that might be talking about. But we're getting there. Lisa has a talent for helping animals understand one another better. you think she would use that here, you know, with everybody and help them, you know, like with their trust problem. Anyways, no, I'm just a question. I'm just messing around. Understand one another better. She was the peacemaker. This is the one thing that she has, like, a great, like, what most people should probably know her for. And I feel like this should really be, like, in the game where, like, y'all find this. She was the peacemaker who brought the alphas together as friends. Their example soon spread, and for a long time now, Jamal has enjoyed peace both inside and outside its border. After the last major battle with the Phantoms, the rest of the Alphas set out to track these mysterious invaders back to their point of origin and learn more about them. Lisa stayed behind, however, both to safeguard our home against further attacks and help the thousands of animals arriving here every day to find their way around Jamal. So, I am going to nitpick about this. It says right here that she was the peacemaker who brought the Alphas together as friends. While they may be quote-unquote friends, I really don't think they really get along as well as they, like, say that they do. Because they really don't. There's a lot of mistrust here, tension, and suspicion, like said earlier. What she did do was she was, like, the main person bringing the animals together. What do I mean by that? If you go back to the Temple of Zeus, in one of these little notes here, it tells about some problem that we're having. And here it is. If the remaining animals of Jamal cannot learn to work together, then this land will truly be lost. That right there is what they were talking about when we went over Lisa and things that she really worked on and did. And it makes sense that she's kind of put as a motherly type figure to really bring everybody together, to be kind, nice, nurturing, and try to be understanding to everybody. And while it does say that she kind of, like, brought the alphas together, I feel like what that really means, not that they don't have that suspicion and tension anymore. I feel like what that's really talking about is the fact that they are more brought together, but it's not fully solved. These problems are still there and they're not fully gone and eradicated. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be perfect and they're automatically never ever going to argue or have any problems. I'm not saying that, but there is a big problem that they do have, which is the tension and suspicion, especially revolving around one particular character in particular, which shall not be named till later. But anyways, let's move on. So here we have Sir Gilbert. Sir Gilbert, the Tiger Alpha, has a commanding presence and a mind for strategy. Despite his reputation of being a proud and often stubborn warrior, he longs for the day when peace will finally come to Jamal. While going from that point, Sir Gilbert is the regal tiger shaman. He's a proud warrior and he takes his ancestry very seriously and always makes it a point to honor those that came before him when going to battle. Even though he has a rough appearance, Sir Gilbert is very thoughtful, a spiritual animal with a caring nature. His personality is serious, reverential, and soft-spoken. He has a deep, low voice that can be soothing as it is menacing. As a mentor to new tigers, Sir Gilbert can be a tough teacher, but he possesses great wisdom and knows a lot about the history of Jamal and its ongoing struggle with the phantoms and the inhabit the Animal Jam world. Now here's the funny part where I kind of like, you know how I said those things when I was talking about Graham earlier? I'm about to show you what I mean. Ever since he was a cub, long before he'd ever even heard of Jamal, Gilbert has always wondered what it must be like to be a monkey, a giraffe, a penguin, a shark, a rabbit, and all of the other animals that fascinate him. He's been known, let me tell y'all, when I read this, I busted out laughing. I was like, there's no way. And then I started thinking, this right here is definitely one of the major reasons that Sir Gilbert and Greeley don't get along. So let me read this to y'all. He's been known to leap at an animal he's never seen before and pin it to the ground. Pin it to the ground. With his terrifying strength, but only to ask them what their fur feels like when it rains. He's always puzzled and disappointed when, as usual happens, the poor animal is too petrified with fear to answer him. Now, I found that so funny, and I just had to be like, does he still do this? Like, did none of the other alphas, like, tell him that was... So, obviously, you know, when I talk about every single one and the things that I'm reading, it says, obviously, that they didn't know about Jamal, and a lot of them weren't in Jamal. And that's because, like, when Jamal was really being put together, that does not mean that those animals were really all in Jamal. They were kind of all scattered in different areas. And then they were all kind of brought to Jamal. They were brought there. Not everybody knew about Jamal because it wasn't really, I think, like, it wasn't really, like, set in stone. So it was kind of like a thing that was kind of being still put together and stuff like that. And I feel like this really has to play in with Mira and Zeus not really being there, and I'm going to be talking about that in my next video, going a little bit in depth in what I mean when I say these things. Anyways, I just know that thing that I just read that he does, I just know that when he met all the alphas for the first time, he did that to every single one of them. Not even gonna lie, I just know he did that. Especially to Greeley, and Greeley was probably just like, get the off me! Oh. He's like, what are you doing? I just know that they had that kind of interaction when they first met, and Greeley is so stubborn that he's probably still salty about that. Like, I don't even know how many years that they've all been together as, like, the alphas together and working together, but he's probably still held on to that, and it's just like, this stupid I hate him, whatever. Anyways, some of Gilbert's best qualities are the very things that frustrate the most temperamental, impetuous alphas the most. Anyways, he is impeccably polite, quietly dignified, and he believes sensibly cautious. He takes the time to hear all viewpoints before making decisions. Maybe. Not for everything, but for most things, maybe. But I have to disagree if that's for everything. Anyways, and in leading the alphas against the phantoms, he is a wary and meticulous strategist. This drives some animals crazy, and more than once, Gilbert's carefully laid plans have turned into chaotic romps because Peck or Graham decided to speed things up. And since Sir Gilbert kind of like takes the lead on everything and kind of tries to be like, I guess, like the leader, and he's like, yeah, and you know, he says that he gets like everybody's input, but I really feel like that's not necessarily true. And obviously this is another problem. Like, they're all not really kind of like thinking the same thing, and they're kind of just like, we need to speed things up, or like if we take it too slow, or they're catching up, etc., etc. Despite his fearsome appearance and warrior reputation, Gilbert yearns for a quieter life. Perhaps that's why he works so tirelessly to repel the Phantom invasion. He imagines a day when Jamaa is finally safe for all animals, and he can devote his time to studying the inhabitants of the world he protects. Because, you know, like, the alphas were chosen to be, like, the protectors after Mira and Zeus were, you know, gone. Yay! Look at who we're at right now. Greely. Oh my god. Greely. The wolf alpha is solitary by nature and is a master of stealth. Because he spends most of his time alone in the shadows, even those close to him often have no idea what he's up to or whether he is telling them the truth. You see this right there? There's no way Lisa solved the problem if this is right there, and it's pretty evident in all the adventures that they don't trust him. And I feel like Greely kind of has the same kind of distrust, but not necessarily in the same way or for the same reasons. You know what I mean? So let's talk about Greely. The reluctant wolf shaman puts his creepy cleverness to use in the study of animal magic. He is definitely on the side of good and righteousness, but he plays by his own rules. He speaks in to-the-point sentences, even to new animals, and has a certain amount of disdain for the other shaman leaders. Come on, act really. Be nice. It's pretty evident, like, he doesn't like him, and he doesn't like Sir Gilbert the most. The only higher power that Greely respects is the Sky Mother Mira. I would think that he would also be talking about Zeus, but maybe not. Or maybe they just didn't think to add that. I don't know. Greely is a powerful warrior against the Phantoms in Jamaa. They fear him most of all because he is so much like them. Now this, I'm going to add a point in here. People have theories that, I've said this before, that they think Greely is evil. They think that Greely is working for the Phantoms, and I just don't think that's true. I kind of went over that in the lore video where I was talking about how he acts, the things that he does, the things that he says. While he may be considered suspicious, I don't really see that he would be evil in any way, even if he is considered to be much like the Phantoms. You know what I mean? But it makes sense that the Phantoms fear him the most, because who is this guy that they're kind of very similar to them, but they're on the other side, like they're not working for him. You know what I mean? Like the way that he's studying, he would be the one that they fear the most, because he's probably the one that would be able to connect everything and be able to take down the Phantoms, because he would know the most, and he would be like, I know what it is. And I wouldn't be surprised if Greely was the one that found out how he was supposed to kill off the Phantoms. And I'm sure that Greely has tons of theories and questions about Phantoms, how to get rid of them, where they came from, etc., and things that he knows and that he keeps from the other alphas, whether it be to protect them, to protect Animal Jam or Jamaa, or to do other little things that we may not even think of. He is the link to the darker side of the Animal Jam mythology. He has theories about where the Phantoms came from, and he may even know the location of a few undiscovered stones, spirit stones, which I believe are these right here, which we only need 2 more. And I already said this theory in the other one, but I will repeat it in a second after I've finished reading Greely's little excerpt here. Greely may be the least understood, which I said, of the Alpha's animals protecting Jamal. Solitary by nature and master of stealth, Greely spends most of his time alone and far from Jamal, observing the movement of the phantoms and sabotaging them from the shadows. From the shadows, which is usually why nobody knows what the hell he's doing. His strange ability to move instantaneously between shadows is one of the reasons he makes many animals very nervous. It sometimes seems as though he can appear anywhere at any time. His menacing appearance and grim, humorless personality probably doesn't help either. Don't be me. No, I'm just kidding. Greely and Sir Gilbert took an instant dislike to each other. I already knew that. Despite Lisa's best efforts to bring them together, they avoid each other as much as possible. In both personality and approach to the phantom problem, they are polar opposites, which I already knew. Like, they disagree a lot, and they are kind of like, they disagree a lot. And it says right here, where Sir Gilbert prefers to meet the threat head on and seeks clearly drawn battle lines, Greely believes that the Alphas should turn to the devious methods of the phantoms against them. Which is kind of like, I agree, because like, you see, they talked about Greely's nature, and even how they said that he is very similar to how the phantoms are, but not to the point where he's evil, which I feel like really just disproved the fact that he is not gonna betray us. He's not, okay? He's really not. And I really have so much that is kind of just like, he's not. And like, you can argue with me and even tell me that he is evil, but I really just wouldn't believe you, because it's just, with the things that he's done, said, and that he constantly does, even if he is really suspicious and there is a lot of discourse between all of them, I really still think that that doesn't really prove that he is evil and working with the phantoms. It wouldn't really make sense, especially not with how the phantoms act around him and how it says that they're fearful of him. The other Alphas may not entirely trust Greely and his methods, but they certainly respect him. I feel like they don't. I feel like people say that they respect each other, but that's not necessarily true. People will be like, oh yeah, no, I respect you, but do they really respect you? I don't know. Do they all really respect each other? That is a big question that I would have to ask. He knows more about the phantoms and their movements than anyone, and it's possible the phantoms fear him even more than they do Sir Gilbert. If the reports are true that Greely has recently to return to Jamal with urgent news, it can only mean that the phantoms are on the move. Because, Greely doesn't really come back unless, there's something that he needs to tell everybody. So, what I was talking about, the Alphas all have their own unique powers and things unique to them, things that they all do separately but come together. You know what I mean? Even if they are technically doing them all separately, they all kind of come together to really defeat the common enemy. Now, while they all have their own powers that were given to them by Mira and Zeos, I do have this one theory that the only way that they're probably going to destroy phantoms is if they collect all of these, they gather the spirit of Mira and possibly Zeos as well, but probably Mira, because here, as I said before in my other video, hidden away for ages in a buried shrine, Mira's feather was only recently recovered. But look at this. It can be used to purify areas that the phantoms have corrupted. If they use her feather, her spirit, and look a little bit more into that stone that they discovered, I really feel like with these all put together, using the power that runs through Animal Jam, and all these different things put together, as well as their own powers, like it says right here, the ancient lines of power that flow through Jamaa can be used for good, but they can also be drawn upon for a darker purpose. The next chapter of our story will begin. Now, if we go back, we can go ahead and still talk about this. I feel like they could really be eradicated. I really do feel like the only way to destroy the Phantoms is putting all the alphas together, possibly studying and perhaps using that Heartstone that they found, Mira's feather, these crystals, and those lines that run through Jamaa, using all those powers combined, they can get rid of Phantoms. They can eradicate them. Why? Because those lines of powers are so powerful. Maybe not these crystals, but that Heartstone that they discovered, I really feel like that Heartstone is the Heartstone of every single animal. I really don't think, because they even said it themselves, I've never seen a Heartstone that looks like this. This is bigger than any Heartstone I've ever seen. So it leads me to believe that that's probably the Heartstone for every single animal, or the Heartstone of Jamaa itself, Heartstone for all of Jamaa. And there's so many other theories, but I really feel like putting them all together, especially with Mira's spirit, can truly get rid of all of the Phantoms. I really do think that that's how that's gonna work. So that's all for that. But if you do want to talk about Greely and just going along with the theories and just talking about the little things that you have, if you guys have any questions for me at all, or you have theories that you'd love to share, go ahead and tell them and we can all have a discussion. I can go ahead and go over anything that you have about the alphas themselves and different things that should be talked about that I may have missed. But really, there's kind of just like the different things about how they all act, how they all come together, their powers, etc. The discourse that they all have, how they react to each other, etc. There's a lot of things that are kind of just like, is that really true? Why is that true? Why are they like this? Why do they think these things? There are reasonable doubts, but are those enough to really kind of destroy everything or not have enough trust in your system? There's so many different things that you can really talk about, but these things are very, 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 very important if they do want to get rid of the Phantoms, because you really do have to come together. But one thing that I did forget to mention is that if they all get those things that I was talking about with my theory of how they could get rid of the Phantoms, I really do feel like maybe these alphas, the main ones, which I feel like would probably be the most powerful, they're probably going to get very injured. Maybe, I don't think so, but it could be a possibility that they lose their power, lose their lives, which I wouldn't disregard. They could very well lose their lives, not all, but most, or just some, or maybe 2, 3, whatever. You know what I mean? There are lives at stake, and there are the power at stake. There's so many things at stake with this whole battle that really just need to be thought about. And are these little problems really gonna stand in your way? that's like the main question. But anyways, going back to before, if y'all have anything that you want me to go over, etc., just go ahead and ask me. I go off track all the time, and I forget everything that I say once it comes out of my mouth. But go ahead, and thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. The next video, I'm going to be talking about Zeus, Mira, Juno, maybe a little bit about the Phantoms and where I think they came from, and something that I found in Play Wild.